Hello, BookTube. As you will know, I leave my email on every video. It's not a dummy email. It's not a merch store. It's not a secondary account that I check only once a month. It's my inbox. And I invite all of you to email me about anything you want at any time. Most of you are very understanding about the limitations that are involved there. I am on my computer all day long. But I'm not always free to respond immediately. And if you write me, for instance, a 10,000-word dissertation, I'm probably not going to respond at all. I'm probably not going to read anything that long unless you're paying me to do it, and you're not. But for the most part, I'm wide open to that sort of thing and welcome it. And over the last month, I have received a number of emails along a similar theme from a number of people who don't know each other. Obviously, they're emailing me from different time zones, different countries, different states in the Union, all along the theme of wondering whether or not they should start a BookTube channel. They've been watching BookTube, my channel, a bunch of other channels, and thinking that looks like fun. But could I possibly do it? I don't really know. And they've been emailing me on the subject, and I had that exact same moment. I watched BookTube like most people. I watched BookTube for a long time before I thought about making videos. In fact, for a good 2 years, I thought it was impossible. I thought my tech knowledge and skill was far exceeded by even the minimal demands of making videos. I didn't think it was possible, in other words. It is possible, but I needed nudging along those lines. And in the time since then, I have watched an enormous amount of YouTube and an enormous amount of BookTube. And I've been on BookTube as an active BookTuber for 6 years, and I've made over 5,000 videos. So I think I'm in a pretty good position to distill some of the observations that I've made about booktubing into a video. Now, I've done this before. I've made videos in the past about little tips for prospective booktubers, but again, it's over 5,000 videos. I don't expect anyone to go spelunking through that back catalog to find those videos. And the emphases might fall in different places. Now, there might be, I haven't watched those videos myself in a long time, but there might be different elements involved here. So I thought I would come up with 10 tips for prospective booktubers or new booktubers who are maybe wondering if they're doing it right, and make a video about it today. So I've got the Samsung tablet all fired up here, and I've listed them. There are 10 of them, and they are in ascending order going all the way to number 1. And number 10 is to start for the right reasons, your own reasons, not anybody else's reasons. Don't start for a fad. Don't start for a trend. Don't start for money. Don't look at what anybody's doing and think, boy, oh boy, that looks like a good side hustle. Those are all bad reasons to start. They weren't on your mind when you originally had the idea. I firmly believe that with the sole exception of a couple of people, one of them a demon smurf, no one comes to BookTube and says that that's a way for me to make money. And they shouldn't, as we'll be getting to. So figure out what your own reasons are and start for those. The reason that prevails in most cases is people wanting other people to talk about books with. As you know from watching the BookTube newbie tag. That's the answer almost all the way, almost down the line, is that people do this because they want people to talk about books with. That's an excellent motivation. The other one that I would add that isn't quite so believable at the beginning is community. Everybody talks about community on BookTube, but you don't really believe it's real until it starts to become real, until you start to make friends on BookTube. That does happen, and that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But it might not look like a real thing to start with. Find your own the correct motivation and start that way. Start for the right reason. Then thing number 9, reason number 9 is, or tip number 9, is to plan how you're going to do things. I know that seems alien in the 21st century because of the click now, pervasive, just ubiquity of social media. That has completely eroded people's ability to forethink and to plan. So everything is spur of the moment. And no matter what kind of a disaster it's going to lead to, no one controls their impulses anymore. And that might apply to the impulse to start a BookTube channel, and you should resist that. Instead, plan what you're going to do. How much time do you have? How much time does the rest of your life afford you to do this? What form will it take? How will you have to rearrange things to make this possible? Better by far to sit and plan those elements than to just turn on the camera and expect that they will sort themselves out. They probably won't. And you'll end up blaming the activity for your own short-sightedness. The activity is just fine. There's nothing wrong with the activity of making BookTube videos. It's your own short-sightedness that usually causes the problem. So this tip is to avoid that. Sit down and think about it. Plan what you're going to do. Then tip number 8 is to consider your presentation. This corner of BookTube is a very personal place. We are mostly just talking with each other, but even so, these are visual productions. We aren't, in fact, talking to each other unless you're on Voxer with me. Instead, you are making a video that you are then going to publish. Even if you don't edit it, you're still going to publish it, and it's going to be out there in the world. Strangers can find it. So, yes, this is a conversational medium, but there are elements involved here that are not conversational. There are elements involved here that are much closer to an on-stage presentation. I'm not saying that that should govern what you do. It absolutely should not, but it's unavoidable reality, and so you want to look at your presentation. Like, for instance, in the setup where you're making your videos, is one half of the whole screen dominated by a blank wall? Or the odd, undecorated, chipped, or discolored back end of a bookcase? Is there a pile of junk right here? So you're here, and there's a pile of junk here. You never address it. You don't think about moving it. Instead, take a look at what your video looks like. Is there anything in it that is ostentatiously distracting the viewer from anything that you have to say? Is there a swinging chandelier? Or a gigantic bubbling fish tank behind you? Or people coming and going? Or distractions on camera that you can easily eliminate. I'm not saying make a set, but you can easily eliminate those so that you are the focus of the video. Very simple videography. But other things as well, like for instance, your affectations on camera. Some people, when they turn on a camera, are nervous. And some, because the 21st century, especially social media, again, encourages everyone to believe that they are the most important and most impressive person who's ever lived in the history of the world. Some people will feel the need to carry that over, that kind of yas, queen, slay type thing in a video. That is always bad. It's called vainglory. It's a horrible personal defect and was for 1700 years considered also a sin. You shouldn't do that in your life anyway. You shouldn't be that in your life anyway. That when you walk out of the house, it's to confront fascists and racists, and also to show that you are the greatest, that you got this, you got this, you got this. That kind of endless, pointless, tinny self-validation is, I realize, a complete signature of young people in the 21st century, but it's incredibly odious and off-putting, so you should make sure to strain it out of your videos. So if you're making a BookTube video and you think, I'm going to stress how casual I am, because I'm going to say, hello, and then I'm going to say, hang on, and take an enormous swig of a soft drink. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's extremely rude to do. Same thing with, I'm going to stress how casual this is, how little it matters to me, by stopping in the middle of what I'm saying in order to take a gigantic honking bite of a sandwich. I'm going to chew and talk around chewing. Or I'm going to make a tag video and just get every element of the tag wrong. I don't know its name. I don't know any of its questions. I don't know who originally did it, and I'm not going to bother to look it up and credit them because I'm so casual. This is all just, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. You're making videos for an audience, so it is a big deal. So none of that sort of stuff, none of that, the affectations that people do in order to show that this is really no big deal, that you got this, queen, you're going to slay no matter what. Effort is not anathema. It is in the 21st century. You're not supposed to put effort into anything, but it's not wrong. It's in fact a very good thing. If you don't care about what you're doing, then don't do it. Don't do it even though you don't care about it. If you don't care about it, that's a sign that you shouldn't do it. If you project the affectation of being bored, I guarantee you will be boring to listen to. So maybe don't take on the world-weary, heavy-lidded, bored, take 35 attitude of someone who's doing a show in Burbank for 35 years. I think, I'm going to get through this. And maybe you do a side glance to your latest band leader so that you can get a one-liner off at his expense. And, if the teleprompters go down, what are you going to do? Huh? where if you are trying to project that you basically hate what you're doing, why on earth should I watch you? I'm not going to, and neither should anyone else, so don't do it. Take care of your presentation. Make it as friendly and genuine as it would be if you were talking to me face to face. The tip number 7 is consider your tech. It's going to seem a little bit weird from an ancient 28-year-old such as myself, but is your camera ostentatiously bad? I'm not saying that it has to be cutting edge, but would anyone in the world notice that this is really, really bad? Do you have no audio? Basically no audio. Where it's not just technological, although it can be that. You could play back your video. It wouldn't kill you. When you play back your video, can you hear what's being said? If you can't, no one else can. It's not just the technology, though. It's also you. Are you speaking or are you murmuring? If you are murmuring, no one can hear you. No matter how much they goose up the volume, they won't be able to hear you. And this is, I'm not saying that this is impersonal. This is not a performance, but there is a performative element involved. This is a product that you are publishing. Are you clearly visible? Are you clearly audible? In an audiovisual presentation, those are kind of important questions. You should address those questions. And if people over and over again are telling you that they can't hear you in your videos, or that the visual is just incredibly bad, address it. Fix it. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to fix that. Usually. You might say, don't be a gatekeeper. You're asking for people to upgrade their technology. I most certainly am not. I most certainly am not doing that. Almost everybody who's on YouTube, who's watching YouTube, who's maybe watching BookTube and considering making BookTube videos, has a computer, whether it's a Chromebook or an Android device or a MacBook, that was manufactured later than 2000. A laptop computer with a built-in camera that was manufactured in 2000 is 22 years old. Almost everybody has access to tech that is more recent than that. Same thing with your phone. Almost nobody is using a Nokia from 1990. If you are, then you are being rude to your viewers, especially since options are everywhere. If you're using technology to make BookTube videos, I don't care what you do in your own personal life. If it works for your needs in your own personal life, just fine. I just got a 12-year-old MacBook that works just fine for my job. But I would never make BookTube videos on it. If it's working just fine for your personal life, fine. But if you're going to make videos that reach out into the outside world, then don't talk to me about gatekeeping if you're using crappy old technology when it is easy to replace. It's easy to upgrade. So keep that in mind. That's all. Then tip number 6 is to consider your props. If you, for instance, I don't know how to edit, so I can't put pictures up on the screen. So if I'm going to be talking about something, I like to have it so that I can show it to you. But even if I'm not concentrating on one thing for a video, if, for instance, you're doing a bookish roundup, show me the book. We're all book people here, and you're making a channel about books for a platform called BookTube. So when it's time to do that, don't hold the book up where your hand is covering half the cover. Hold it way back here like this and flash it around like this and then put it down and keep talking about it. Show it to me. Show it to me. I am not going to name any specific booktubers. I am not going to either confirm or deny that I am thinking in this moment about the Brothers Gwynn. What I'm saying is we're all here for the books. So if you've read something recently, don't wave it around back here holding it by a corner so that I can't see what you're talking about. Show it to me. Show it to me, nice and clear. And the same thing is true with all the other props as well. Put a little forethought into what you're going to need before you need it so that you don't have to, God forbid, get up in the middle of a video in order to get what you need. So that I'm staring at dead air while you go rummage around in your closet. That ties into tip number 5, which is to do a little prep work. No one, again, is asking you to be artificial here. No one is asking you to do a huge amount of research or to have cue cards or anything like that. But a tiny amount of prep work would be good. If I'm watching you talk about a book and you basically know nothing about it at all, I'm going to be yelling at the screen, and not in a good way. I'm going to be yelling at the screen saying, this would have taken you 5 seconds to prepare. You have not prepared for this video. And you might be saying, well, aren't you saying that this is a conversational thing? This is a conversational corner of BookTube? When I meet friends, I don't prepare for those conversations. I am saying that this is a friendly conversational area of BookTube, but it's also a publication. You're making something. A small amount of preparation will not kill that feeling at all. In fact, it helps a lot to know a little bit about what you're talking about, as opposed to fumbling all around on video. Is it the first book in a series? Oh, is it the second? Is it the third? Is it even a series? Is the author alive? Is the author dead? I don't really know. I don't really know. So anyhow, I was reading it, and the main character's father, he's a real piece of work. Or is it his uncle? Prepare ahead of time so that you don't waste the time of your viewers. Anyway, tip number 4 is to be yourself. A very trite piece of advice, but people tend to forget it, especially when the camera starts. Be yourself. No lying, no cheating, no faking, none of that. As I mentioned a little earlier, that bored game show affectation that I hate so much, where, you and Maury in the sound booth, you've been doing this in Burbank for 35 years. Yeah, it's the show all over again. Yeah, you're going to do it. This is the way it goes, huh? Where you obviously don't care about anything that you're saying. If you don't care, I don't care. If you don't care about what you're talking about, I am not going to care about what you're talking about. If that's the affectation that you are choosing, then, as I've mentioned before on this channel, apply for a job on network TV. You'll get better pay and benefits. And that way you can be as openly bored, jadedly insincere as you want, and no one will care, because no one cares about network TV. But if you're going to do that on your own, just to practice getting good at being a totally insincere studio lounge lizard with eyes 3/4 closed, why on earth would you want to get good at that? And why would I watch you practice? So, be yourself. You don't act that way when you're talking with your friends, like a bored MC. You're doing a show, 5 days a week. What are you going to do? It's the toughest job in show business. You don't act that way around your friends. You'd see the back of them pretty quick if you did. So don't do that on BookTube. Then, tip number 3, a little bugaboo on this channel. I'm going to go through it again here. Don't monetize your channel. And don't accept sponsorships. Don't introduce a monetary element into your BookTube videos. Don't do it. I have heard from people who say, times are tough, the budget's tight, I need the money. You're making $100 a year, if that. No one's budget is that tight in the Western world. No one's budget is that tight. There are extravagances that you do in 1 week that could make you that much money without me being forced to watch commercials in order to listen to what you thought about To Kill a Mockingbird. Nothing ruins the element of genuineness in your videos more than raising the question of why you're making those videos in the first place. And the minute you introduce a money-making element into your videos, that question comes up loud and clear. Are you doing it for the money or not? And the minute I have that question about your video, the minute I even ask, would you keep doing this if you weren't getting your $10 a year? I already have my answer. I don't even want to ask the question. The question is deadly to authenticity. To say nothing of the fact that sponsorships completely kill your reliability. One of the big reasons why we watch BookTube is to find out what you thought about something. If you take money in order to tell someone that you think it's great, no one should ever trust you when you talk about what you think about something ever again. It doesn't turn on and off like a spigot. I know people in the 21st century think it did. People in the 21st century are absolutely enamored of monetizing everything in sight, and also they're enamored of side gigs, and don't seem to realize how damaging those things can be to their own authenticity, to their believability. If you do a sponsorship for some book, or some publisher, or some one of those boxes of garbage that you get once a month that has neat things that you're being paid to enthuse about, and then a month later you say, well, I read this book and I really liked it, and guys, I'm not being paid to say that. I am not going to believe you. Only a fool would believe you. You've sold that right, and you can't get it back. It's a pittance of money. And I know the analytics. I didn't years ago when I got that objection for the first time. But now I do. I have researched it, and it is a pittance of money. You do not need it. So the two objections that I tend to get are, one, it's that it keeps the wolf from the door. It most certainly does not. It's $100 a year, if that. And two, I'm not keeping the money that I make. I'm donating it to charity. Well, if charity means that much to you, then why don't you donate your own money instead of donating mine? Right? You're not going to saying I'm donating the proceeds of my ad revenue to charity is guilt tripping your reader. You might not think it is, but I've had 180,000 years of being a Boston Irish Catholic. I know a guilt trip when I see one. It's you saying, well, you're not going to criticize that, are you? Better by far to remove all element of money from your video. Better by far to do that. Instead of the things that I've seen some booktubers do where the minute they qualify for monetization, they do it. Why? Why would you do that? Just because you like the idea of making 15 cents where you didn't make it before? Are you that greedy? And suddenly, the experience of watching their videos goes from, oh, I wonder what so-and-so has to say, to, well, first there are 2 unskippable ads where so-and-so is trying to sell me erectile dysfunction medication and mattresses. And you might say, they're not trying to sell you that. It's on your video. So you're trying to sell me mattresses and erectile dysfunction medication. And I have to sit through those. I can't skip them. I have to sit through those in order to watch your video. But does it get me your video? No, it does not. It gets me a minute of your video and then another ad, another commercial. I don't know how to put this in a way that will not bruise egos, but you are not worth that, and neither am I. It's rude. Absolutely rude. It is like going to a restaurant to meet with friends. They get together. Everyone takes their coats off. Everyone orders appetizers. Everyone sits down. It's a great time to catch up. When it comes your time around the table, you say, I want to catch you all up on what I've been doing. I've got a new job. I've got a new girlfriend. I've got a new cat. But first, see this watch I'm wearing? I want to tell you about it for 45 seconds. And you can't leave the table. And you can't speed me up. And you can't change the subject. How many friends would you have if you did that? So, tip number 3, just forget about money. Okay, just forget about it completely. Don't investigate some ways versus other ways. Just forget about it completely. Divorce this whole operation from money so that it doesn't poison everything. I mean, honestly, I know it's the 21st century, but does money have to poison everything? Literally everything? That's tip number 3. Don't do it. Then tip number 2 is engage with the community. Make comments on other videos. Respond to your own comments. Do tags. Do read-alongs. Do that sort of thing. I know that that's a common piece of advice, but a lot of people decide I'm going to strike out on my own. The 21st century, again, thanks to the incredibly corrosive effect of social media, has people desperate to create their own personalities in a way that never was true before. They just consulted with themselves and realized what their personality was and worked on making it better. They didn't just go out to try and find one and make one of their own and make it really cool and hip. In the 21st century, people do that, and one of the ways I've seen new booktubers do that is to spurn the community. To say, well, I don't do tags on this channel. I'm not going to do anything communal. I don't answer my comments on my videos. If you want to do that, strike out on your own and do that. I've seen some people say that in their BookTube newbie tags, for God's sake. If you want to do that, then be content with 10 subscribers. Or growing your channel to a large size while being an uninvolved a-hole the whole time. Is that what you want? There are some BookTube channels I could name, some that are fairly good. Fairly big, fairly prosperous, large numbers of subscribers. They have been rude, condescending, non-involved a-holes right from the beginning. Do you want that? Do you want to be that way? I don't think you do. Why would anyone want to be that way? There are enough people like that in the world as it is. And besides, as I tried to allude at the beginning of this endless decalogue, the community is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. To the point where years later, when you are heavily invested in the community, when you have friends and, emailing and voxering and visiting, and all of that is real, and suddenly you realize that it has nothing to do with BookTube, it has nothing to do with making videos, there'll be times later on when you'll think, well, okay, do I have what I want? Do I need to keep making videos? Except I would hope that you do, because I watch your videos, and also because it's constantly growing, constant new people that you can connect with. I strongly, strongly advise the communal aspect of BookTube. Don't spurn it. Do it. Because it's a real thing, and it will change your life. That sounds hucksterish, but it will change your life. And then tip number one for booktubers, both new and old, is do it. Try it. If you are someone who is contemplating making a BookTube channel, and you are thinking of these things, and you've been thinking of others, maybe you've watched other videos on what to do with BookTube, that sort of thing, and you're wondering whether or not to take the plunge, I want to urge you to do it. Try it. The thing that might be holding you back is a misconception. And again, it's a misconception engendered by the 21st century, one of whose explicitly ominous sayings is the internet never forgets. where the standard blue checkmark, shaved side of the head, blue-haired woke scold, for instance, on Twitter, their favorite thing to do when you say anything, when you write anything on Twitter or on Facebook, is to respond with, "This you?" and some allegedly gotcha clip of you saying something different from what you just said at some earlier time. They live for that. There are people who do that all day long, searching through backlogs of people's posts and videos in order to simply write, "This you?" And that is sort of a weaponized version of the internet never forgets. And I can understand how that being in the water would lead you to think, when you're contemplating starting a BookTube channel, that you'd better get it right from the beginning, because the internet never forgets. But that's not true. No one cares about this corner of the internet at all. We're talking about books. There are currently, 9 billion human beings on Earth? Of those 9 billion human beings on Earth, I would say, at most, a very generous, high-end estimate is that 100,000 people read. So more people die every day in the world than read in the world. So people private their older videos all the time here. People remove their channels, take them down all the time here. This is not permanent. No one cares about books. So you don't have to worry about that, is what I'm saying. If you keep the other of these tips in mind, and you start a BookTube channel, and let's say you don't like the experience. Simple as that. Let's say a bad reason would be that you're not getting enough traction fast enough. I think a little patience is involved there, but if not, let's say, for instance, an example, an objection that I heard from a booktuber who started, made a few videos, and then stopped, is that it made the whole experience of reading seem both a little too meta and a little too public. Those are valid responses. Those are valid objections. The person didn't want their reading changed by BookTube. I'm telling you, it will be changed by BookTube. Even mine has been. And I was reading for a long, long time before BookTube came along. If you don't want that, that's a legitimate reason. You won't know until you try. I'd be willing to bet you'll be okay with it. I'd be willing to bet that you'll like it. But my point is, for tip number one, is do it anyway. Give it a try. If you don't like it, down the line, 3 videos from now, if you don't like the experience, then private your videos, delete your channel, you gave it a try, but you won't know unless you try. There's no way to game that out. So tip number one is to try it. Put all these other tips into effect. Be genuine on camera. Don't be fake. Don't be bored. Don't eat. Don't drink. Don't leave the camera frame. Consider what your frame looks like. Is it nice and plain and simple? Is there an enormous thing detracting your viewer from anything you have to say? Can you be heard? Can you be seen? A quick care checklist like that. Cover the checklist that we've gone over in this video, and then make a video. Make the BookTube newbie tag. Search out the BookTube newbie tag. Copy and paste the questions into a document that you will have in front of you. Don't try and wing it. Get the name correct, that it is the BookTube newbie tag. Don't start a video and say, "Oh, I do whatever. It's the newbie starter tag." No, it's not. No, it's not. And you know it's not. You're ostentatiously playing it casual, and all you're doing is off-putting people because it's a lie. And no matter what you might have heard in the 21st century, lying is bad. So find the BookTube newbie tag, copy the questions, take a day to think about your answers, then turn on the best camera that you can find, whether it's on your laptop or elsewhere, and make a video. Make the BookTube newbie tag. You will find that there are people who regularly look for the BookTube newbie tag. They regularly do searches for it, and they narrow by upload date, specifically in order to welcome people like you. Give it a try. Go and find those people. Leave comments on their videos. Mention that you've addressed something in your own video. Don't leave a link to your channel. That's considered pushy, rude, and it is. But they'll find you. People will find you. I'll find you. and see if you like it. That would be my last and most important tip. Try it. Give it a month. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you read. If you don't read that much, if you're a slow reader with very little turnover, make a video a month. You'll find the community element feeds you with content ideas that don't have anything to do with how much you've read this month. Tags don't. Read-alongs don't. That gets you involved. Try it first and see. Believe me, there was a large part of my own self, my own heart, years ago, that thought, even if you do try this, it's not going to work. Because unlike most people who start BookTube, I have plenty of people to talk about books with. Plenty. And also, my best friend in the world, the person with whom I spend the most time, when we're together, we're not talking or even thinking in English, and there are no books. There are no books in the dog world. So that was totally absent for me. That's not an element of why I did BookTube at all. And I wondered if because of that, maybe this won't work. And it did. If it worked for me, it can work for you. So there you go. Those are some 10 tips for BookTubing. In case you're one of the people who's emailing me thinking about trying this out, you should definitely try this out. So I'm going to wrap this up for now at long last, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.